And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome in to your LSU Football Fix. I know if you're watching today, you are a hardcore LSU football fan because LSU got clobbered, embarrassed, humiliated by Alabama this weekend in a way in which we've only seen happen one other time in the last century. And that was during a COVID year to Alabama. It was on the heels of a national championship hangover. So this one certainly feels different. Tonight, the hot topic du jour is a very clear one. It is a lot of people are very unhappy with Brian Kelly and the job he's done in year 3, and they want him gone. A lot of people want that. So we're going to address that. I'm pretty sure if you're watching by now, you are aware that no, LSU will not be firing him this year, but perhaps, you know, are you looking at that as like, okay, is this just, what is this a lame duck coach just waiting to get fired? Is it that bad, or is there hope for the future? I've got a lot of perspectives and angles and considerations to look at in those terms. Zack is with me as always each and every Monday night. He's of course publisher at Sports Illustrated's LSU Country. What's going on, Zack?
Not too much, man. We're about 48 hours out now from that loss, kind of taking it all in, getting all the content that we need out on it. But obviously a disappointing night to be a person covering the team and obviously just an LSU fan as a whole. So it's now about kind of pressing that reset button, getting back to the drawing board and trying to finish out the season strong with Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma next up on the slate. So tough loss, but you bounce back, you move on, and now you kind of shift focus towards what's up next. But I know, of course, tonight we're going to hit on a couple different things. Like you'll hit the agenda, recruiting, BK, right, et cetera. So we got some things to talk about tonight. I'm excited about it, but it's all about pressing that restart button and moving on after this.
Yeah, and not only the restart button, but hit the like button as well.
Yep.
So y'all make sure to do that. It gets our analytics going, particularly early in the show like this. Those little like buttons help get people in the live audience, all that good stuff. As you know, we all pray to the algorithm little gods in this day and age. It helps us a lot. It supports our business. If you can help with that, like, share, comment, all that good stuff helps with us. So appreciate that if you do that. I'm going to open with context on Brian Kelly, the job he's doing, where it compares, that kind of stuff. Got lots of good stuff. We're going to shift gears and we're going to talk recruiting for LSU because it was a massive recruiting weekend. And then, in a blowout loss like this, it's like, yeah, you got them on your campus, but boy, you got embarrassed. So things can fall in a lot of different ways. It's certainly not as good as having a who's who of high school recruiting on your campus and you get a big win. So a lot of interesting angles. Before I dive too deep into all that, I do want to discuss our title sponsor, Celebrity Theaters, who makes everything we do possible, guys. Remember, they're Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater. Because of that, you're guaranteed to see a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology, and of course, the Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games. It's the largest in town, a bar featuring beer, wine, and frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats, and of course, their Dolby Atmos 3D sound system. And of course, we're going to get to a lot of your comments tonight. I feel that this is a show, Monday after a loss like that, should serve as your venting show. It's not like we got to watch the Saints, who have a chance of doing something good. Now the Saints won, but my God, you almost wanted them to lose at this point, right, Zach?
That's where I'm sitting at. New Orleans native, growing up a Saints fan my whole life, and obviously, we're in the dark ages of being a Saints fan at this point in time, but you want to see him tank now. You want to see him tank and try to get a quarterback early next season, or next NFL draft time. So, yeah, at what cost was that win? Always you want to see him beat the Falcons.
Right.
It's always something you want to see, but you want to see him tank at this point too. So I'm up in the air at this point in time, but
right.
Look, good win.
Hey, if you had to pick one win for the rest of the year, though, Take the one that
That's
gives
it.
you, because like the series was tied with Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you hate those guys. Hit like, beat Mike. Let's get more likes than Mike tonight. Hit like if you want to see BK fired. Hit like if you want to see him continue to keep his job. Just hit like, everybody. Okay, helps us out. Guys, Brian Kelly got his butt kicked Saturday night in a way that is embarrassing. If you're an alumni, you should be humiliated. If you were at the game, you shouldn't be proud to tell people you were there. And I'm gonna tell you this: the fans deserved a win that night. 102,321 people showed up and showed out. They were loud. They were proud. Through the rain, didn't care. 102,321 ponchos came on. Very few people even went into the hallways. It was loud. It was a tough environment. You forced a false start on the very first play. This is very much so a fan base and program that is deserving of wins, right? And Brian Kelly put together a team that didn't get it done, not even close this weekend. And there's the thing is it's a lot of times it's like how you lose. I mean, Zack, you have how much time do you need to prepare for a running quarterback to stop a running quarterback? I just don't think this team can do it. Is that not unexcusable to let Milroe run like that when you knew it was coming for 2 weeks?
It is. It's such a confusing kind of situation for me because obviously you went to Arkansas and you contained Taylor Green to a certain degree. Obviously, they didn't run him as much as normally they might have, but it's mind-boggling to me that you can't find an answer for somebody at this point. Obviously, you got to give credit to Milroe. At the end of the day, like, yes, we can sit back and bash LSU and say that the second level of defense wasn't spying enough or all X, Y, and Z, however you want to cut and dry it. But for me, you got to give a little bit of credit to Milroe at the same time because he was doing his thing out there and looking like a top-tier quarterback in college football. So you got to give him a little bit of credit, but at the same time, what the hell was LSU doing? What were they doing for the last 2 weeks? It seems like they were just ill-prepared, and I've never seen a Brian Kelly team be so unprepared for a game in my life. So it's certainly mind-boggling, head-scratching, whatever you want to use for it, but to not have an answer for him just through all 60 minutes of the game, I really can't explain it. I've never seen anything like that.
It's gravely concerning. And to see these issues just continue to prolong and have no answers for it. Boy, I guess the good news is DJ Lagway has a tight hamstring and won't be able to run. Even if he is able to play, he's not going to be the same kind of dynamic athlete he usually is. But Brian Kelly, a lot of people want him gone right now. I'm going to give you some perspectives. Support my opinion. Brian Kelly is 26-10 as LSU's coach. If you had looked up 3 years ago after what he inherited, you've probably heard the line 39 scholarships, more than you ever want to hear it again in your life, right? It was a dumpster fire. It absolutely was. It was a program in disarray. Ogeron left it as such, and he had a big job ahead of him. That being said, it was still an elite program. LSU is an elite program with elite resources and an elite recruiting base. You would have still taken 26-10 at this point, right? It's just kind of not been the way you expected. I think a lot of people thought, okay, maybe 7 or 8 wins first year, cool, great. And then maybe we work, maybe another 8 or 9 win season. And then by year 3, you should be built and competing. And it hasn't worked that way. It's been a plateau. LSU's looking like it's heading on a crash course for 9-3 again.
Well, it's pattern-based, real quick.
Right.
It's pattern-based. And that's something that, you talk about with your girlfriend, you talk about with your wife. It's if you see a pattern, you stop it so that you don't steer them in the wrong direction, right? You talk about patterns and how if there's an ill pattern forming, you cut it off. For Brian Kelly, he's lost season openers. He's struggled he's had his defense struggle. Now offensively, you're starting to see your running game just continuously, week in, week out, struggle. It's a pattern-based thing. And so for me, to not see the development from the players is one thing, but also to not see development from the coaching staff as well, to learn from your previous mistakes is what kind of boggles my mind a little bit the most, is that just these patterns that continuously happen time and time again, not getting fixed. That's where I'm just sitting back and kind of thinking about, like, who's calling the shots here and who's really kind of at the helm of this. And isn't it his job necessarily to kind of go into the office of Joe Sloan and try to find the X's and O's and make this work? So for me, it's a pattern-based thing, Preston. And that's kind of my utmost concern, is that when you have these patterns time and time again, something's got to give, right?
I mean, I'm absolutely concerned about these things. Absolutely. But I am going to take a step back and frame this with some broader context. In the moment, it's easy to be conquered by the moment. Brian Kelly is 26-10 as LSU's coach, and he's played a pretty robust schedule since his time being here. Brian Kelly at Notre Dame in his first 3 seasons, he started 28-11, and Notre Dame was in similar disarray as LSU when he got it. I'd say probably the roster wasn't as barren as what Brian Kelly got at LSU, but LSU probably had a better recruiting and resources, NIL, all that kind of stuff. You get what I'm saying? No, none of these situations are going to be the same. Let me throw another scenario at you, another context. What do you think Nick Saban's record was his first 3 seasons at LSU?
It's pretty similar to BK's, if not the same.
26-12, a little worse. Mm-hmm. Granted, it's funny how different the situations are, but you kind of look at them and it's like they're kind of they sort of even out and level out a little bit, because Nick Saban did inherit a bad team, but not as bad as a roster as what Brian Kelly inherited. Brian Kelly inherited a dumpster roster, but there's transfer portal, there's NIL, and also the culture at LSU had been built into a different spot where Saban had to build that culture. Now, I think DiNardo laid the concrete foundation of that culture shift, but Saban built the bricks all the way up and got the roof padded and wired the house. You get what I'm saying? Like he built the wall all around Louisiana. Sometimes there's holes in the fence throughout the years, but since he built it, it's been a cultural shift in the state, and that's a huge benefit to Brian Kelly. I mean, the fact that they didn't even have to really work hard to get Harlem Berry committed. I mean, that kid was never going anywhere else. 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. 20 years ago, Harlem was like, let's go to Florida State. That's
the point. That's what happens when you set the foundation, is that you got guys who sometimes they almost don't even want to offer kids in Louisiana because they know that they're going to commit right on the spot because of the culture that's here in Baton Rouge. So obviously, you have guys like Harlem Berry who want to be here right on the spot. So that's a fantastic kind of example.
To summarize what I'm saying, the alignment was right for Brian Kelly. It was not right for Saban. Saban aligned it, right? So I get it, but it does provide some. But do you think Saban's first 3 years were full of no coaching blunders? I mean,
there's always going to be hiccups along the way.
Bama whooped LSU's ass 31-0 in 2002. You know how far away people thought that team was from competing for a championship? I'll tell you exactly how far it was. It was 13 months away. 13 months away from winning a championship, and no one saw that coming. I assure you. You think when Florida blew the walls off LSU every single year, 41-9, you think when they lost to UAB, there was no coaching blunders? That's what I'm telling you, is there are coaching blunders. I wanted to actually open with a Dabo Swinney comparison because it took him a while to get things rocking and rolling at Clemson, but then it kind of just hit me that Nick Saban's tenure at LSU was a more apt comparison here. Now, of course, this goes different ways. Let me tell you about a coach named Jerry DiNardo, who opened his career at LSU 26-9-1. That is eerily similar to 26-10. I mean, just creepy similar. And of course, that went a completely different direction, but I know you're too young to remember, but Lou Tepper was a real problem for LSU. I think LSU had a Lou Tepper on staff last year, and BK was wise enough to make him kick the road. You know what I'm saying? Whereas DiNardo was loyal into his grave. So, I think it's really easy to get conquered by the moment. It's very easy to look at this and say, that's unacceptable. Everybody sucks. Nuke it. All right. Let's say LSU nukes it. Okay. You think that's better for the program? I mean, maybe down the road, years from now, but what the closest way to LSU getting successful, Brian Kelly's a coach who won 100 games at Notre Dame. His last 5 years, he was averaging 11 games a year. He was winning at Notre Dame, and, a guy with a long body work. And right now, He's not hitting your standard. He's hitting the floor, but I still believe that he's a better coach than Les Miles. Fair?
Fair.
I still believe he's a better coach than Ed Ogeron. Is that fair?
Fair.
Those guys won national championships at LSU, which is eventually the goal. That's the ultimate goal. But the problem with them was the in-betweens. Hey, man, 9-3 a year in and year out, you got to give us some 10-win seasons or some 10-win regular win season. I'm talking about 9 plus a Pop-Tart bowl.
Season thing.
It's a little
overblown. You can't include the Pop-Tart bowl in your 10-win season. It's 10 regular seasons and 10 regular season games.
Don't play, a team with an interim coach and half its team in the portal and try to beat on your. I mean, okay, that's basically like saying you played nickels again. You know what I mean? Like it's a little overblown. Yes, it's a good thing. Yes, it's something you can add to your repertoire as a program. And yes, he needs to still be competing for that this year. That being said, you need to do better. Your average needs to be better than that. I will continue to assert the bar at LSU. I mean, is it homer of me to say I think LSU is a top 12 program?
No, I mean, I think at this point in time, I mean, obviously today-wise, we're in a bit of disarray, but overall, LSU is one of the biggest brands, one of the best programs in college football history. So, yeah, you could include
top 12 resources?
Top 12, absolutely.
Top 12 recruiting base?
Absolutely.
Top 12 fan base?
Top 5 fan base, in my opinion.
You get top 12 stadium, top 12 facilities. Like,
yeah, the resources and the area that you have obviously put you at an advantage. And when you're sitting back at a time, for me, I'm trying not to be kind of like a prisoner of the moment. Obviously, you look at a situation right now and you hit rock bottom with this loss. 42-13 against Bama, 2 weeks to prepare, a first-year head coach in Kalen DeBoer. It's obviously rock bottom, right? To lose 42-13, I mean, that puts you right at the bottom. You can't go lower than that, in my opinion. So, obviously, you're looking at a situation that's a struggle, but it's kind of just don't kind of press the panic button just yet. That's kind of how I look at it. Obviously, everybody wanted to sit back and say in year 3, this is the time where this team was going to be competitive. But you always knew that there were going to be struggles. You lose 3 first-rounders, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas. You lose a key chunk of that offense. Obviously, you have the offensive line that looks vastly overrated at this point in time. You have the 112th best rushing attack in the entire college football. So you're taking steps back. For me, I'm going to come back to that same example. It's the pattern-based thing. And this is where I kind of get a little bit confused with Brian Kelly's approach. You're seeing consistent problems in the rushing attack. You're seeing consistent problems with stopping running quarterbacks like you were talking about before, Preston. For me, it's pattern-based. So for me, you talk about the definition of insanity, the cliche line, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. And it seems like to me, whoever is at the helm needs to kind of come in and just change the entire narrative. And that's Brian Kelly's job. And that's just where I get a little bit confused with the approach and the trajectory of the program. Because you got a top 5 recruiting class. You have a guy like Bryce Underwood, DJ Pickett, Harlem Berry, et cetera. You got the dudes coming in for the future. But at some point, you have to live in the moment and start to understand at the exact same time, like, we can't keep looking at next year, the year after, the year after. You have to live in the moment now and be a winner now, or else you're just going to lose the entire fan base as a whole. And that's where the transfer portal becomes your best friend. And for me, to kind of end my little tirade would be, what were you doing during the offseason? You can't continue to just look at Louisiana players, evaluate Louisiana players, and only bring in Louisiana players. You have to
from the portal out. You're talking about.
I'm strictly talking about the portal. Strictly talking about the portal. I love the Louisiana recruiting base.
Recruiting, yeah.
But when it comes to the portal as a whole, you need to go out and get some dudes, and you got to start handing out blank checks, because that's the new age. That's the new age way to win in college football. And you got to go out and get some dudes. You can't go get 5 or 6 guys and hope that 50% of them succeed. You got to get 10 guys and hope that 60% of them succeed. That's just the new way to win.
Let's be honest. You're going after the Louisiana guys in the portal because you're looking for that discount.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, you're looking for the great value players, but championship teams don't win championships with great value players.
Without a doubt.
You need to go get the guys to fit your needs. Now, I do think you can fill most of those needs in recruiting, but when you come to the portal, you need to fill your holes with needs in a big kind of way. Great comment here from Dane Bergeron. Saban fired a lot of coaches till they got the correct staff, which, by the way, It's kind of what BK's been doing. A good parallel. I appreciate there's another old head other than me in here who can remember that kind of stuff. Dane, I'm catching up to you. I've turned 33 today, so watch out. I'm right on your heels, my guy. And of course, he follows that up with, man, I'm not trying to make this the Dane Bergeron show, but he did. I already put his comment up that he had his super chat. Not so fast, my friend. Shout out Kurt Lee Corso. Miles and Ogeron's teams were better coached in the fundamentals. They were tougher and could tackle. Fair points. They couldn't pass, though. Not less Miles, at least. I mean, you had the number one pick, Jamarcus Russell in 06, but there were certainly some schematic things you didn't like from what they were doing. Let's see before I continue going here. Anyways, on terms of hitting that bar, that standard of excellence, we're talking your top 12 program, you need to make the playoffs on average every year, on average. Now, down years happen, up years happen. You get what I'm saying? That pendulum swings. That's called sports.
Without a doubt.
But if you're a top 12 program, you need to prove it on the field consistently, right? And of course, the SEC, maybe there's a slight argument for, well, the SEC is tougher, so even though you're in the top 12, you get beat up a little bit. Okay, on average, you should be making the playoffs. Like, it should be a consistent thing. Like, oh yeah, LSU's in the playoff conversation. You're 0 for 3 in that conversation. Granted, that perspective of actually making the playoffs started this year, but the standard of being in that top 12 teams has been there the whole time. Right now, it's just a little more. You're gonna have some pie in your face, and I'm not just talking about the Pop-Tart they're gonna make you eat. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have some figurative pie in your face when Miami is, in the playoffs taking on a team and tens of millions of people are watching that, and 500,000 people who don't even care watch the Pop-Tart Bowl because nothing else was on a Tuesday night during Christmas break when the kids are in the room. You know what I mean? Like, every bowl game is going to be embarrassing. This is not good for LSU's program, but it's never going to be good for a program any year at all. Anyways, 0 for 3 for hitting that bar. So I'm not sitting here and telling you it's all roses and sunshine that be what Brian Kelly's done. But we're talking about 9-3 seasons, or 10-4, 9-3, 10-4, 10-3, and then whatever they finish this year. I think they have a good chance at winning out. I really do. Particularly with Lagway hobbled this week. I'm going to go ahead and pick LSU to win. Sorry about your boy Napier.
He's back next year. We're good.
He's back. Hey, I'm happy for you, man. I'm glad he treated you so well, by the way, when you were at, ULL there. But you need to get better from that 9-10 win mark isn't just in another stratosphere of success. You need to add one or two more wins to that. And you know what a good way to do that is? Bring in possibly the best flipping recruiting class that you've brought in since that 01 class. You add in Thanos, Jakeem Stewart. I'm sorry. It's too easy to call him Thanos, man. You're in the conversation there. We're going to dive more into recruiting later, but I'm telling you, you've got a spectacular class committed. Bring them in, and 2026 is loaded. So in terms of who is the best fit to get LSU back on the road quickest, it's Brian Kelly, and it's not particularly close because once you weigh in factors the context of a $56.9 million buyout, what kind of coach are you going to go get while paying that? There's probably one guy I could think of, and it's not realistic in the least bit. It won't happen. But like, you would have to hire Nick freaking Saban for me to be like, oh yeah, fire Brian Kelly right now. That's not happening.
Like, you have to sit back and also evaluate the coaches in the landscape right now. Like, Brian Kelly obviously is the winningest active coach right now, yada, yada, yada. The only way that you go out and kind of make that splash would be what? Like you were talking about, obviously, like a unretired Saban.
A ridiculous name.
A Dan Lanning.
There's no Mulkey out there.
Yeah, like, there's just no one out there. So I'm not going to sit back and tell, like, LSU fans to, like, be complacent with 10 wins. It's not, like, the narrative that we're pushing at all. What we're trying to push is that, obviously, people are going to get tired of hearing, give him time, give him time. Obviously, that is abysmal. That, my mind is not even there anymore. Like, I'm tired of the whole give him time thing. But you have a base where you have success here. Brian Kelly's proven that he's willing to and can put a wall around the state of Louisiana. Preston alluded to the fact that 2025 and 2026 is absolutely loaded. So the potential is there for the long haul, but it's just a matter of obviously pleasing LSU fans right now. He's not doing that, but looking long term, the success can be here really in the blink of an eye is the best way that I can put it.
So let's say you do pay a $56.9 million. Who are you going to hire? Well, look at the guys who were in consideration. Look, when you hire a coach, you know how often people miss? You think USC is happy with Lincoln Riley? And don't you dare come up here and say, well, he beat Brian Kelly.
Right. Exactly.
I get it. Okay. Football games happen, right? He's 2-1 against Kiffin. Is Kiffin doing a better job? Mel Tucker. What happened with Mel Tucker, everybody? 1 year later, he's fired and disgraced, okay? Billy Napier. Would LSU have been better off hiring Billy Napier? Would you trade positions with Florida right now, right? Jimbo Fisher was a guy got floated around for the job twice. Mm-hmm. Would you have traded what Jimbo Fisher's? Mike Norvell. Look what's going on with him. He has fielded a junior high football team. And look, Roger Dodger in here. No, they're not happy with Riley right now. That's what I'm telling you. That's all the flipping names that were considered.
Which is what comes back to exactly what I'm saying is like, you have to understand that you have a guy right now who's at the quote unquote, the top of the totem pole, not the absolute top, but he's in that conversation of top tier active head coaches. And eventually the ship is going to steer in the right direction. Is this the best way I could put it? And obviously I don't want to sound like a homer. I don't want to sound like a guy who's having LSU bias, but at the end of the day, when you look at active coaches in the college football landscape right now, Brian Kelly's in that top tier, that top echelon. And eventually he has a staff that has the opportunity to put them in the right direction. I saw a question before talking about Joe Sloan. Preston, I'll ask you.
Yeah, let me put it up.
Since it's up there. Do you think Joe Sloan will be back next year?
I'll put it up real quick. I got to scroll back a little bit, but go ahead and start answering it.
For me, look, he's back next year.
For sure.
I think everybody's pressing the panic button again. This is the type of thing that the LSU fan base loves to do, and it's why I love being on the beat. It's why I love covering the team, because the fan base is so passionate. But at the end of the day, he's a guy who's an excellent recruiter. He helped develop a guy like Jaden Daniels. He's going to help a guy like Nussmeier develop as well. And he's been obviously the pivotal piece to getting Bryce Underwood to Baton Rouge as well. So, yes, being an elite level recruiter and an elite level play caller is two different things. Is it a challenge for him being a first-time play caller here in a big stage in an SEC program like LSU? Yes, there will be learning curves. But at the end of the day, I do think he's going to get it kind of going in the right direction. We've seen him be able to script plays well for the first 15 to 20. It's just about in-game adjustments that he's lacking.
Right.
I do think that at the end of the day, he can be a guy who can be that guy.
I think Sloan has done a job where he is a new coordinator learning.
Correct.
Right? And I think he's done an okay job. And I think a lot of times people just see the offense struggling in a way they don't like.
Look at Dane. Look at Dane's comment.
Dude, Dane always kills it, man. I appreciate him so much. We'll get to him in just a second. But anyways, is it Joe Sloan's fault? I mean, people were bashing him for not throwing to the tight end in the red zone. Well, okay, you threw to the tight end in the red zone against Alabama, and Nussmeier throws it directly to the linebacker. Is that Joe Sloan's fault? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's been some things he should be critical of, but I think a lot of it's just been the offensive line ain't performing well, and your quarterback is erratic at times. That's it's sad that Nussmeier has gone from being one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC to erratic, but when you plug the film in on the games that matter, he's completed 51% of his passes. We're talking Ole Miss, Alabama, and we're talking other SEC team they just lost to, Texas A&M. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Okay, threw for 1,000 yards, hunky dory, great, I get it, but we also didn't. You missed on half your passes and threw 7 picks. So the other thing about Sloan is, he got Bryce Underwood. There was a point in the game I had to ask myself, is the best quarterback for LSU in the stands or on the field tonight? And at a certain point, it's like, probably on the field, but you really want to say in the stands. You know what I mean?
For fun, obviously, yeah, you want to say something like that. It's going to take time for a guy like Underwood to adjust. But, yes, it's a fun debate to have. I feel for Nussmeier. I'm not going to go on a tirade about Nussmeier. He's struggling right now. The proof is in the product. The proof is in the numbers. Anyone who's watching LSU football can see that. There are things that haven't gone his way, and then there's been a lot of self-inflicted wounds as well. for me, when I say kind of things that haven't gone his way, I specifically look at the fumble in the second quarter right before halftime. I think you have to be holding the ball with two hands, not one. But then you look at a guy like DJ Chester who's sitting there with his eyes closed, hands up like this, but looking in the complete opposite direction, allowing the linebacker to come in and just absolutely abuse Nussmeier. So, look, there are things that aren't going his way, but there's also self-inflicted wounds there. So I think a lot of the blame is going to be on Nussmeier. It's ultimately going to go on the quarterback, as it should. But your O-line is not playing up to par. Your center, I know we don't like to use PFF grades at all, but when you look at it, I'm pretty sure DJ Chester is the 142nd ranked center out of 143. So DJ Chester is not necessarily playing elite level ball. The elite level pass protection isn't there. Your DJ Chester is the quarterback of the O-line. So there are things that aren't going in the right direction, and it's all going to go on Nussmeier at the end of the day.
Of course, he's clarifying he thinks he is the problem. And look, maybe I'm proven wrong. I'm just telling you, he will be back next year. I think the cure to a lot of bad play calling is have an elite quarterback, an elite offensive line, and elite receivers. And I don't see that from this team. Like I think about things like that Kyron Lacey toe drag catch where he was like an inch out of bounds. And, I think about that and I'm like, hey man, if a guy who can position himself a little better, like a Justin Jefferson is catching that, all of a sudden you think a lot higher opinion of the OC than you do with that 1 inch out of bounds, don't you? You think a lot better of the OC when the quarterback makes a good decision in the red zone and floats it to the tight end in the back of the end zone instead of throwing it directly to the linebacker. I think a lot of it is the players just aren't executing well, and we're blaming the OC. I don't know.
Do you think LSU is a top 5 receiving core in the SEC?
In the SEC, I was going to say nation, hell no, but it's probably a little below that if I had to guess. I think Kyron Lacey's a legitimate guy. I think a part of it is also how banged up the receiving core has been. The healthy receiving core is certainly not in the top 5, but I just think that they got a lot of okay guys. Aaron Anderson's been pretty good. Kyron Lacey has been elite at times and others not so great. He dropped a touchdown against Alabama.
Yeah.
And that would have really changed the game. And again, that's another situation where you sit there and you think, okay, well, did the OC draw up a bad play or did Lacey just drop it in his breadbasket? I think player rotation is another issue. Why are we doing Josh Williams in the red zone like he's Charles Scott or something? Like Caden Durham is little
at this point,
but he's a tough runner, man. He's a little Maurice Jones-Drew out there.
I like that.
Roll with Durham, man, in the red zone. And look, he gets 8 carries on the night. Really? I understand you fell behind and had to pass the ball a lot. 8? Come on, bro. What are we doing? I don't understand why you're rotating backs a ton like you're doing just to run the ball 20 times. Chris Durr disagrees, and that's fine. Look, and Chris, I'm not like sitting here and chalking up counting who the receivers are for other teams. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because he asked me. I don't have their rosters in front of me. Let's just talk about the running back. Oh gosh, man, we were definitely. What the hell are we running our smallest back up the middle in a red zone? Frank needs to stick to recruiting. Look, I'm not a fan of Frank Wilson's running back rotation.
Dane's doing good work right now.
Thank you for the super chat, Dane, on my birthday too, man. I appreciate the love. I hate it. I hate it. Why are we rotating so many flipping running backs? Just go with Caden Durham till he's tired, okay? And then spell him with Josh Williams. Okay. And by the way, situationally rotate them. Oh, hey, we're going to run a screen. Maybe we should give it to the guy with great hands who can move shifty in space. Let's give it to Josh Williams. Oh, hey, we're running it up the middle. We need to blow someone up. Let's get the little muscle hamster out there. Let's put out Caden Durham and see if he can truck someone over. Oh, no. We're going to put the former 2-star walk-on guy who's small and slender, great hands, great blocker, and we're going to put him in a goal line. So you're putting your players in position to fail. And I think that a real conversation needs to happen about Frank Wilson coordinating with Joe Sloan and deciding what situations and what play calls fit the running back talent best, because I don't think that they're communicating with each other and saying, all right, we're running, 36 lead dive. Okay. And we're trying to get some real hard earned all yards. I don't know that Frank is talking with Sloan about the play call and deciding what running back is best for that play call. I really don't. I think they're just putting it's next man up type mentality. And I don't like it. I don't like the running back rotation. Again, these are concerns. These are improvable concerns, but there's certainly coaching concerns that I have. That's why I'm not sitting here and telling you it's just sunshines and daisies. I'm just telling you it's too early to give a true judgment on Brian Kelly. And I am also telling you the quickest way to give yourself a chance to compete for a championship is take what you've got in place. Don't nuke this coaching staff. Don't nuke this recruiting class. Bring in these recruits. Let's see what Bryce Underwood can do before we make that judgment call. You get what I'm saying? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Anyways, I think just take a minute, slow down and judge it. Yes, this season's over. Yes, you should be disappointed. Yes, you need to express your discontent to Brian Kelly. He failed this season. The program failed you. You should have done better this season. But it is what it is. Win out and do the best you can. That's your job. Let's get to our first ad break real quick. And we're going to shift gears. We are going to get to a lot of comments, okay? But we're going to talk a little bit of recruiting. Me and Nagy have done some work on that this weekend to trying to get the fallout. It's a real interesting conundrum where LSU finds itself in, being that it really hosted a who's who of college football. Recruits, I should say. I mean, 3 players who at one point were named number 1 recruit in the country. I counted it up, and there were 15 players ranked in the top 5 at their position this weekend. But the downside is all those elite players saw you get your butt kicked in a bad kind of way. That's always interesting to talk about. But anyways, when we do that, we'll get to an ad break real quick, and we'll be right back after that, guys. Guys, if you're looking for a location for celebrity theaters, they've got 2, one in Ruston, one in Baton Rouge. And of course, they do weekly promotions to try to make it an affordable deal for you. In this economy, guys, price inflations, all that good stuff, celebrity's here for you, man. Senior Savings Day for Monday nights, where you get $5 for all patrons over the age of 55 all day. I just want to say calling someone 55 and older a senior, questionable decision, but they're being generous with it, so we'll allow it. Bargain Tuesday on Tuesdays, where you get discounted movie and concessions for all. Wednesdays, college night, where admission for college students after 5 p.m., even the ones throwing trash on the field at Tiger Stadium, costing the university $250,000, get in for $5. Baton Rouge location has half off arcades all day. And of course, the Thursday at the Baton Rouge location only is their Thirsty Thursday, where they have discounted bar items. And guys, if you're looking for a nice tall drink to drink over this 42-13 butt whooping, Struby's has got you covered, guys. All TigerBait live shows are proudly brought to you this football season by Struby's Seafood and Steaks. Located at 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience at a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in its food and service you just don't see from any old corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA Prime Black Angus, steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York strip. And for those looking for something outside of the red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster, lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you. And Zach, we got to get out there soon, man.
I went out there probably 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, you did?
I went
What'd you get?
with my girlfriend Gabriella, and I got filet. I got a little crawfish mac. She got some food too. Always a good time out there. And I told everybody when we first got the sponsor that I'm a New Orleans native. I'm a Louisiana kid, born and raised, and I take pride in the food that I eat and stuff. And for me, getting over there, look, it's one of the best steaks I've ever had. I definitely recommend that everybody get out there. And that's just not a biased perspective. Truthfully, one of the best steaks I've ever had.
I mean, really. I would tell people that without being paid to tell them that. Like, that Wagyu was the best I've ever had. The best. So I'm glad we were able to help support your relationship. I'm sure Gabriella was very happy to go out there. Guys, let me tell y'all real quick about Alumni Hall, guys. It's like, I continue to tell you, it is like Disney World for an LSU fan, Tiger fans. you know the best place to get you all officially licensed LSU gear. It's Alumni Hall. They're your ultimate shopping destination for LSU fans. Let me tell you a real quick story. You saw the Veterans Day warm-up shirts that LSU had today. Mike went out to the store and just randomly bought one before the game. Had no idea the team was warming up with it or anything. Of course, Alumni Hall had him ready to go. He just liked it, and look at him. He got a matching shirt to the team. That's the kind of cool stuff that happens at Alumni Hall because of their management taking care of things like that. They're really on top of it, guys. They've got it all from the new Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, On Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, hats, Yeti, gifts, accessories, and more. Shop their store at Perkins Row or shop online anytime at alumnihall.com. And guys, don't forget, I've got this discount code to share with my friends and subscribers. So when you shop there, use the code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, in store or online, and you're going to get 10% off your purchase, making it affordable and quality. Go check out Alumni Hall. One more ad spot before we get into it. We got to hear from our friends at Genesis of Lafayette.
Drive in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GB70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive owner incentive, plus finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
There's a reason they sell more Genesis than any other dealer in Louisiana. For your very best buyer experience of a new or luxury SUV or sedan, call them toll-free to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in. And guys, I really do appreciate people do such a good job supporting our sponsors and letting them know, hey, TigerBait sent you in. We're a locally owned business, local journalism. I mean, just those little word of mouth things, it means so much to help support what we do, to do those little things. Zack, no shortage of recruits on the field this weekend, man. What you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're looking at one of the biggest recruiting weekends of the year. Obviously, let's shift gears here. We understand LSU lost. We know that it was a catastrophic collapse. We understand all of it, and the recruits were sitting there front and center. So that's completely understood and completely out the window. But aside from that, you had a guy, Jakeem Stewart, 5-star prospect, #1 target on LSU's big board in the 2025 class. Bryce Underwood in town, #1 player in America. DJ Pickett, Harlem Berry. The list goes on and on. Preston was alluding to that. And obviously, everybody subscribed to TigerBait. Everybody saw the visitors list as well. So this is definitely one of the weekends that'll go down in history from a recruiting perspective and can help continue to catapult that really overall recruiting push long term. But the kind of talk of the town right now is Bryce Underwood and Jakeem Stewart. And Bryce Underwood for right now is committed to LSU. This is a guy who has been committed to LSU for over 300 days. This is a player whose commitment has not wavered. He hasn't visited Michigan officially, unofficially. He hasn't made his way up to Ann Arbor. So this is a player who remains locked in with the program, and all signs point towards him putting pen to paper in the early signing period in December. This is a player who's remained loyal and has shown his trust in Joe Sloan and the rest of the staff. So he made his way in on Saturday. He was in for a multi-day stay. He was here Saturday, Sunday, left this morning on Monday. So he had the opportunity to go through a photo shoot, get the red carpet treatment, and finalize those last few things that you need before you put pen to paper. And the outside noise is obviously the Michigan Wolverines, right? Offering $5 million, $10 million, you name it. However much money,
a blank check,
however much money he wants. Obviously, we've seen that Michigan is willing to shell out the dollars. But for right now, all signs point towards Bryce Underwood putting pen to paper. And it's a big-time get for LSU. And you want to see them seal the deal, obviously. The recruiting game's so fluid. Nothing's done until that pen touches paper, of course. But Bryce Underwood's the gem of the 2025 class. You're going to continue to keep your foot on the gas for him until then. But the visit went very well from people that I've spoken to. And I'm excited to see kind of what the general consensus is as well, because for right now, it sounds like everything was positive. And of course, Preston, I'd love to hear your thoughts about everything too, and having him down, et cetera.
So what's your overall take on Jakeem Stewart, though? That's what I want to pick your brain on.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of people about Jakeem Stewart, and they certainly rolled out the red carpet and then some. He was in for 3 days as well, made his way in on Friday evening, and had an opportunity to sit down with Frank Wilson and the rest of the staff for one of those, red carpet treatment dinners, and coming and bringing the food to you, et cetera. So kind of one of those really, really big events. He sat next to Frank Wilson the entire time, where they had the opportunity to talk shop. as well as kind of get acclimated to what the visit was going to entail. So they sat down next to each other, and he got comfortable. And then Frank Wilson's that New Orleans guy. He's locked down that recruiting realm. And
Right.
his piece is obviously a guy like Jakeem Stewart. So they had the opportunity to talk shop Friday, get comfortable, and then prepare for Saturday night, where he went through and took a tour of the campus, talked to Bo Davis, etc. And then Sunday night was also a little bit more the exact same thing. This is where you had more of your coaches' meetings, where you sat down with Brian Kelly and the other staff members and talked about what the plan would be, the vision for a guy like Jakeem Stewart to make his way to Baton Rouge. So talk shop there. And then he went and bowled and hung out with, Frank Wilson and a couple of the other guys before he left on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Made his way back home to Laplace on Saturday night or Sunday night. For me, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jakeem Stewart is going to do X, Y, and Z. He still has a bunch of other visits on the schedule. He's going to go unofficially visit Oregon one more time. He's going to officially visit USC. He's going to officially visit Ohio State as his last visit on the weekend of November 30th. So Jakeem's got some visits left. It's a busy November, but he's going to make that decision the first week of December and move on from there. It's going to be an exciting time, but his visit to Baton Rouge was a success, to say the least. He had some time to talk shop with Bryce Underwood as well. We all saw the photo of them from their photo shoot on Sunday.
Yeah, they did it together. Yeah.
They did it together.
Oh, wait.
Next to each other, and obviously about as big as it gets. So the clock's ticking until a guy like Jakeem Stewart makes his decision. Oregon's certainly making a push, but LSU's right up there too, and they're willing to swing for the fences. And it's hard for me to imagine a guy like Frank Wilson missing out on a New Orleans native, but they're going to continue chipping away until that clock hits zero.
I'm going to say that I don't I'm always very impressed with the photo shoots, right? So it's almost of no note when you see a really cool picture of them from recruiting. But Jakeem Stewart in the action figure box with the Thanos glove, that was next level. That's like the kind of stuff you look at and like, all right, you've got some young person in your recruiting department really in tune with what these guys are going to want to see. That was awesome. Yeah, I would say that Jakeem Stewart, probably LSU still the favorite for him, but I mean, there's a lot of teams still. It is a who's who of college football recruiting him. So, I don't know that LSU necessarily outstacks the field, but I would certainly put LSU bigger than any individual team on there. That's my guess. Okay. And obviously his situation changed drastically when he switched schools and reclassified, but that is what it is. I had a good question earlier. I'm going to put this up here. Where is it? Someone asked about DK Moore. Could DK Moore flip? And that's a very good question. No cojones, Kelly. Well, from what I'm understanding, it is rare, but sometimes in losses that are bad enough, ugly, program altering, I should say, which certainly perception of LSU's program just changed in a big way because of that loss. There are sometimes a recruit who are so shucken up by it, who was on the fence anyways, where it's enough to tip the scale. And from what I'm understanding, LSU had an outsider shot with DeCorian Moore, had it rolled out the carpet. They were definitely prepared to make a competitive NIL package. That was part of the discussion. Him coming in was, we're going to give you something to think about with this, right? And we really want you to be back because we need a top end receiver in a bad kind of way next year. And from what I understand, the loss and how that offense looked, I think had LSU had the score been the other side away, I think we might be talking about a DeCorian Moore flip. If LSU had beaten Bama 42-13 and that offense was rocking and rolling, I think he said, nah, I'm good. I got a lucrative NIL package and a program that's rocking and rolling, number one Oregon. I'm good. So I think that DeCorian Moore is probably the one I'm circling and saying, yep, that's the victim of getting your ass whooped like that. That's the one for sure. I'll go down, I'll pick out a few big ones that your Bryce Underwood, we talked ad nauseum. Did you see Connor Stallions got hired at Belleville High School today?
I saw that, and I don't really know what to make of that. Obviously, it's a unique hire, obviously with the ties to
sure
and whatnot for the people that don't understand, but a unique move. I'll leave it at that. I feel like there's not too much more to add on to that other than the fact that it's interesting, but the way that I look at it is that came out on Sunday night. Where was Bryce Underwood on Sunday night? Having dinner with Brian Kelly and the rest of the staff. So for me, yes, it's an interesting move, but at the end of the day, Bryce Underwood was here in Baton Rouge and at the place that he's hoping to call home in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, I
it's
think
certainly
he's
a
locked
unique
in
situation,
still.
to say the least.
Yeah, I think he's still locked in. And look, it's one of those things in NIL era, nothing's done. Nothing's ever done. I promise you there's a number for every guy out there. So I'm not going to tell you to be overconfident about it. And, don't take what I'm saying and blindly dunk on Michigan fans on Twitter because, well, they said it's, but I think it is about as wrapped up as you can. I think that Michigan's coming with too little too late. I think the Connor Stallions move is interesting. It would have been more interesting in the pre-NIL era back in the day where you needed a plug in place to move money around silently. Now you move your money out loud for the whole world to see.
Yep.
So I don't know that really matters. Of course, Connor Stallions is still as loyal as they come to Michigan, in case you're wondering. If you watch Connor Stallions documentary, he will do anything for that university. It's funny how often he's been in the news this year. He got hired by a local high school. Then that local high school fires their coach, and he's the interim head coach. And apparently they finished
what school hires a coach during a playoff run? That's where I'm just sitting back like
Belleville.
Like Belleville's in the midst of their playoff run right now. And
it's fishy.
It's such a –
and apparently he's a play caller.
All I know is that Connor Stallion is on staff there, and I'll leave it at that, and it's a unique situation.
What's interesting is he was a head football coach.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks ago. Right. Now he's on Belleville's staff. Look, man, I don't know, man. High schools do janky stuff all the time. That's completely unheard of at college and NFL level for sure. But, I remember in my high school, we fired offensive coordinator like 4 weeks into the season, and like the athletic director, who wasn't even a coach, came in and called plays. High schools do weird stuff like that, it just is what it is. Let me see here. Anquan Fagans is a pretty highly recruited safety cornerback committed to Auburn. I don't think LSU made a good enough impression to really crack a list with him. Trying to think here. Lamar Brown, Blaine Bradford. Those are two guys. I think those are local guys, 5-star guys, and LSU's locked into them. And I think for the most part, these guys understand that losses happen, and they can kind of phrase that as, hey, this is why we need you so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like we need you to come here because look at the results on the field. And those guys also have another year to see how things go and can make a judge. So in terms of that, a victim of the loss, I really think the one is Decorian Moore. Outside of that, I think you're doing all right.
We also live in an area where, like, if you don't get playing time right off the bat, you leave. So
yeah,
sure. Look at 2025 guys who are thinking to themselves, well, maybe the secondary is not doing too good. So a guy like DJ Pickett understands that he can come in and make an impact.
Sure.
Off that. So look, there's pros and cons. It's, yes, bad loss, defense looks shaky, etc. But for a guy like DJ Pickett, etc., you can come in and make an instant impact. And that's what a lot of the recruits can also think, too. You get to play in an electric Tiger Stadium atmosphere in the SEC, make an impact in year one. So there's pros and cons. I'm going to look at the glass half full approach and think DJ Pickett and a couple of the other guys are thinking to themselves, I can walk in here and make an impact right off the bat and get coached up by a guy like Corey Raymond.
I don't think any of the committed guys are decommitting because of the loss. I think that this is the 11th hour. They've done all their research. They know what's going on, and they've built that relationship. And there it is what it is, man. Anyways, we're going to get to some questions in just a bit. But before I do that, we're going to get to our last set of ads for the evening, and we'll wrap up with some questions for y'all, okay? But first, I got to talk about my friends at Rejuvame.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
Change the way you feel at Rejuvame Medical by creating a customizable treatment plans based on your goal. Rejuvame can lead to your success. Visit RejuvameMedical.com for more. All right. Guys, one thing we try to do with all our sponsors is partner with locally owned businesses we've experienced firsthand and know we can endorse to provide an outstanding experience for our listeners. That's exactly what you're going to get with Capital City Grill. They fit perfectly to that lineup. Located on 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for a casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pastas, steaks, and more, with everything priced $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win or Tigers misery, in this case this weekend, with their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net and make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. And guys, if you're looking for a event for a birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, arcade party, whatever you're looking for, Celebrity Theaters is proud to offer a package to fit your needs. You can go visit them online, celebritytheaters.com/events, or give them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. My mom took her 4th grade class out to that the other day, and I just want to say it was an outstanding experience. All those kids were having fun raving about it. They really put in a lot of effort to make it special. So y'all go make sure to check out our title sponsor, Celebrity Theaters. All right, let's get to some comments here. YouTube user, Salty Virginia Peanuts. That's quite the name and profile picture. I keep my eyes on Derek Meadows. Derek Meadows is definitely a guy. He's taking a lot of visits around a lot of places. And he's a guy who isn't as deeply entrenched in the program as others are. In fact, I always just wonder about it. He committed right on the heels of DK Moore decommitting. Was that a play where possibly, LSU had all those NIL resources from Decory and Moore, and then they said, well, those are freed up. We got to bring in a 5-star guy to replace him. They just went to Derek Meadows. I also know that he's not putting up the kind of numbers his senior year that he had been putting up. So there's a question at that.
For Derek Meadows, by the way, before we switch kind
Please.
of topics, look, like you said, he's visiting other places. He went and checked out Michigan last weekend. He checked out Notre Dame this weekend. This is a guy who hasn't even come to LSU for a game day experience just yet. So Derek Meadows, in my kind of understanding, would certainly be a player who would be on that quote-unquote flip watch elsewhere. I wouldn't necessarily expect Derek Meadows to be in this 2025 class right now as it stands. I think other reports are saying the exact same thing as well. So I'm not the only one, but I definitely think that Derek Meadows is a player who could end up at a different school by the time the early signing period approaches in the first week of December. Michigan and Notre Dame were the two schools that were in the loop prior to him committing to LSU. So it'll be interesting to see what he does before kind of pen touches paper. But LSU is certainly going to keep pushing for a guy like him. Preston does have a point. The stats might not have been necessarily what people were expecting.
Right.
Has he reached his kind of top peak yet? Who knows? But at the end of the day, we'll see.
Yeah. And what's more disappointing than Derek Meadows' senior season is disappointed in your lack of Instagram presence. Some people really needed you to put it on the Instagram. That's from Bryce Underwood Coon. Bryce, a nickname Underwood Coon. Thoughts on that?
Shout out JVR Suggs.
Yeah, I'm not big on the professional Instagram. It's tough to do links and stuff for it. So I've personally just Facebook, Twittered it, that kind of thing. In terms of receiving, if you lose Derek Meadows, your problem at receiver gets even bigger because you're certainly losing Kyron Lacey, who's been your best player this year. And a lot of those other guys, we'll see what goes on with them. I mean, a lot of them are portal type bolts, and I think you've got a lot of good, not great, and you need greats if you want to win the SEC and make the playoffs. Period. That's what it is. You got a lot of goods, not greats. And in terms of young guys emerging, someone commented earlier about, let's see if I can find it, about Samson. Someone, was it No Cojones Kelly, who commented about Samson? Oh boy, I can't even find it anymore. But anyways, yeah, Shelton Sampson hadn't panned out, and neither has Chris Hilton so far. Injuries play a part with Chris Hilton. Shelton Sampson, we just hadn't seen that flash yet. But anyways, typically with a young receiver, even if he's not starting or buried on the depth chart, at some point you see a flash of, oh, I see why that guy's special.
That's why everybody talks about Brian Thomas Jr. and everybody wants to say, well, Brian Thomas didn't kind of take off until his junior year and whatnot. Maybe give Shelton Sampson a little bit more time. And for me, Brian Thomas showed flashes his sophomore year. So
sure he did.
We knew that there was a guy who was bursting.
And Malik was showing more.
He also hadn't played football that much either. Like Brian Thomas was a raw prospect when he got to LSU. So he just started playing football later in his high school career. So he peaked. He didn't peak, but he hit that next gear in his junior year, coming off of a sophomore year where he produced. Shelton just hasn't produced. I don't even know if he has a reception all season. So, yes, we haven't seen Shelton necessarily making noise just yet.
I haven't seen that flash yet. Makes you wonder if it's there at all because, I mean, name an elite receiver where you didn't see a moment where you're like, oh, Jarvis Landry? You definitely saw an O moment before.
Yeah, like you were saying a second ago as well. I think you were talking about Malik Neighbors, how he had that big-time spot at the end of his freshman year. So we all knew that these were going to be some dudes. We just haven't seen that from Sampson just yet, and that's okay. There's some other guys in the mix who can kind of take that next step if he's not going to.
Yeah. So I mean, I cannot name an elite receiver who didn't at some point.
Yeah.
Before he popped off, show me something. So, anyways, maybe I'm wrong. Good question here: is Mason Taylor a lock to turn pro at the end of the season? I don't know about lock, but what's he going to do to improve his draft stock?
That's my thing. Like that's where I said. I mean, he leads the program in receptions, receiving yards, etc.
What's left?
The O line is going to regress somewhat, maybe. And at this point, I don't even know from what we're seeing. But what more does he have to prove? Why not go be a top 3 tight end in the draft and take that next step in your career? He showcased everything.
Mike was getting in his feelings with Preston the other day. You know what I've noticed with Mike is anytime I bring up a point where like years ago I brought something up and it's like we're going to have to wait years for it to be determined. And then it's like very obvious that I'm right about what it was years ago. Before I can even get it out, he just jumps all over me. I'm like, I kind of told you so, Mike. Just another example of that. But, me and Mike, we love to hate on each other. He's a good guy. Trust me. But, the other thing about tight end and Mason Taylor is I really do think you have a room with lots of guys ready to come fill that role for Mason Taylor. I mean, Trey'Dez Green has shown some flashes of being really good. I think that they haven't used him enough, but he's certainly going to be good. I think Pimpton is still there, although buried. I think he's buried on the depth chart, but he's still a receiving threat. And Matt Markway, now we'll see, but where those guys end up going, but because transfer portal is probably whenever you have a log jam like what you're dealing with this year, transfer portal is always a prevalent thing you got to deal with, right? But I would say if Mason Taylor exits, a lot of those guys might say, well, this is my opportunity to slide up and get where I want to be. So anyways, guys, it was a fun show tonight and appreciated engaging with y'all. I think there was a lot of big messages we needed to communicate and get some big perspectives out there. Appreciate you for joining me. Zach, is there anything you wanted to add before we roll out of here?
We kind of hit the nail on the head with everything. We addressed what's going on within the program and Brian Kelly and what's next, the trajectory of the program, etc. Nailed the recruiting weekend that they just finished up. And obviously, for better or for worse, it was a big-time recruiting weekend with guys like Bryce Underwood, Jakeem Stewart, DJ Pickett, etc., all in town. So at the end of the day, the trajectory of the program is still going to move forward. It's not like they're on a downward spiral. And then that's really the gist of it all. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and Brian Kelly's going to be at the helm of it, and we'll see where they go over these next 3 games.
It'll be interesting, and, think about things like that receiving core. Maybe they get in on a guy like Caleb Cunningham. We'll have to see. I think transfer portal, I think that this season they're going to be a little more aggressive in the transfer portal, knowing that seeing how bad things are going, they might decide to empty out those resources a little heavier than they would like to because they need to kind of win now and trusting a bunch of these babies in this 25 class to carry you to an elite squad. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure to make the playoffs next year.
No doubt.
And of course, 2026 is going to be the year really circled on your calendar. If you haven't made the playoffs by 2026, I think there's going to be some serious conversations to be had. We'll see. Anyways, guys, I appreciate y'all for having me. Y'all make sure to hit like on the show if y'all enjoyed us. Remember, hit like, beat Mike. I'm trying to get a win over him. Those old guys are hard to beat. But I certainly appreciate y'all coming to see the young guys here on the LSU Football Fix every Monday night at 8 p.m. We will be back next week. Of course, I'll be back with Mike on the postgame show for Florida. Hopefully not as miserable of a postgame show as we had this week, but we shall see. You never know. And then Mike and Buddy will be here Wednesday night. And I don't think there's no basketball game on Wednesday, right? So I think they're going at the regular time. I seem to remember looking up at basketball this week, and I said, no, nothing's in our way. Anyways, appreciate y'all for watching. We will see y'all next week. Y'all make sure to hit like and follow on the channel. Thank you.